How's the Sony FX30 been treating me for the last 6 months? Well, it's been pretty surprising to say the least. The Sony FX30, Sony's first entry-level budget cinema camera, came out almost a year ago and provided a new massive stepping stone for beginning filmmakers and anyone just wanting to focus more on video than photography. At the time of release for this camera, it came with an unbelievable price tag of $19.99. I believe it's about $1,800 now. It only came with the camera and a single battery. Since the FX30 is a Sony ASP-C camera that uses E-mount lens, I already had some lens from my Sony A6400, but that still wasn't enough to get this camera in action. Here's what's changed in the last 6 months and what I've added to my Sony FX30 since the day I opened the box to this bare bones camera. Like I mentioned, I already have a few lenses that I use with my Sony A6400, but I wanted to get a little more legit and find a good go-to lens that I could keep on the camera most of the time. After careful research and numerous recommendations, I eventually chose the Sigma 18-50 2.8 lens. This lens is small, lightweight, and covers most of my used focal ranges, with the 18mm slowly becoming my favorite. Since most of my shooting is done outdoors in direct sunlight, my lens wasn't going to do any good without some shades. Shopping for a variable ND filter is normally pretty easy until you start using a wide-angle lens. Anything from 24mm and lower is going to give you some vignetting or dark areas on the sides of your footage. I found the Heda Nano Pro variable ND filter that actually listed that it's for wide-angle lens, but I didn't want to chance it, so I purchased a 55 to 82mm step-up ring that allowed me to screw on an 82mm ND filter. This works great all the way down to the 18mm I'm shooting at, and I kind of like the look of it too. The next thing I needed was a couple good SD cards, which I also thought would be an easy purchase. Turns out that in order to get the best quality and performance out of this camera, you need to purchase cards with high read and write speeds with plenty of storage space and optimized for 6K, 5K, 4K, UHD, and high bitrate MPEG-4. I found a 2-pack of ProGrade Digital SDXC UHS-2 V90 cards that have been working great for me. A little later down the road, I wanted to get a top handle, but the original Sony handle for this camera got such bad reviews, so I wanted to stay clear of that. I always liked the concept of a cage for your camera, but most of them looked too bulky and took away from the appeal of the camera. I eventually found the Siri cage for the FX30, and it was just what I was looking for and more. The low-profile cage fits tight around the camera body and has some rubber padded areas to protect the camera from getting scratched. The cage also came with a top handle that fastens tight to the top of the cage and a side hand strap to help secure your camera when you're out running and gunning. I normally use an audio recorder with a lavalier mic, so I don't need to mount a mic on the top handle, but I do like using an external display that fits nicely up there too. I'm using my Samsung Note 20 connected to the camera with a USB-C to USB-C cable. I have the Monitor Plus app running on my phone, and it pops right up when the camera and the phone are turned on. I'll probably look into one of the newer external displays out on the market when the price is right. Until then, this works great for me. That's about all I've added to this camera so far. The Sony FX30 is everything I've been looking for in a camera recently, and I only have good things to say about it for now. The autofocus is extremely fast and precise, and the Sony colors that people had a problem with in the past don't seem to be an issue with this camera at least. I think that pretty much covers everything I've gone through with the Sony FX30 in the last 6 months. It feels like I put it through enough wear and tear to safely say this camera is great for anyone making the transition to shooting mainly video. I say that because Sony pretty much stripped away any advanced photo features that previously came with their other cameras. For the price tag on this camera with all the features that it offers, it's going to be hard to beat, especially with the full frame version of this camera, the FX3, being almost 3 times the price and really only benefiting on the shooting in low light situations. So if you're thinking you're ready to take that step into the cinematic video realm, then I'd highly recommend the Sony FX30 to get you started. You won't be sorry.